Okay, welcome back. So I'm going to give this a stab. So first of all, we want to add that getter to spawn point. So let's go over to our spawn point CPP, over to the header in fact. And here we've got our public section split in two again, which I don't really much fancy. So let's clear that up a little bit, move them public sections into the same place, and then add some public API in here. So we're going to want something that returns the actor that was spawned. So it's going to return a actor star, the pointer, and it's going to be get spawned actor, like so, and it's going to be const because it shouldn't change this class. Okie doke, so that's nice and easy, but in order to get it, we need to have stored it. And if you go and look at the C++, we're currently in begin play not storing it, we're just chucking this actor away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a U property, a private U property that I can't edit, because I don't need to edit it. I just need it to be tracked by the garbage collection system. That's why I'm using a U property. And it's going to be an A actor star, and I'm just going to call it the spawned actor, like so. And that's what I'm going to keep track of it in. So let's go over to begin play, and instead of storing it into this auto new actor that we've created here in begin play, I'm going to store into spawned actor instead. And then I can do the early return if spawned actor is null. I can attach the right component, and I can finish spawning with the spawned actor. So that should have set up the spawned actor correctly, which is all hunky-dory, and then we just need to implement our getter. Now you could do this over in the C++, but I'm just going to do an inline implementation here because it's really as simple as just saying, hey, return that spawned actor, please, which you can do just here. You get rid of the semicolon, and instead you add the curly brackets, like so. So that should hopefully do the trick. I've put const in the wrong place, of course. Should go after the round brackets before the curly brackets. Okie doke. So if I go ahead and build that, I'm hoping that we'll get mostly just a warning about not having our wheels implemented, our get wheels, which we are going to do next. Well, we do have an error. Let's see if we go to the output log. It is saying that the error is something about drive track. Ooh, what's going on here then? It's saying it's a linking error. It's unable to resolve external symbols. So I think that's definitely our wheel being the issue there. So let's go over to the track.cpp and actually to the H file because I want to copy the signature of get wheels. I'm going to go over to the CPP file and implement it. Now remember that const does have to stay into the C++ file, unlike the virtual keyword. That's because you can have both const functions and non-const functions of the same name, and it will use either one depending on the context. I think it will try and use const if possible and won't if it cannot, if it doesn't have a const pointer. Okay, so that's why it needs to be in the C++, because you might want to be able to tell the difference between this function and the one without const, and they might have two completely different implementations. So that's quite useful to know. Okay, so we got this T array of the A sprung wheels coming back. I can remove the class definition because now it has been defined here in the C++. It should no longer moan about that. And then what we want to do is actually return some sprung wheels from here. So first of all, we actually need to construct a T array of sprung wheels. And first of all, it's going to be empty. So this is going to be the result array. And we're going to be returning that array at the end. So I'll write the return straight away, and then we can insert our code that populates the array in between these two lines. Okie doke. Right, so next up, yes, I haven't added the utank track : in front of get wheels, which is probably why it's complaining at me about that const for some reason. Okay, next up we want to actually get the T array of scene components that are the children of this track. So it's going to be T array, then scene, uScene component, uScene component star, and these are going to be the children. And we are going to populate this with the API call that I told you about, the getChildren components, and it's going to be the children of. Yep, this is indeed a uScene component. So we're going to say, yes, we'd like all the descendants, just in case we choose to child wheels to other wheels at some point later on. So we're going to get all the children out of that. Then what we can do is we can iterate over all those uScene components. So it's going to be a uScene pointer that we get back in the for loop, that's what we're iterating over, called child, and it's going to iterate over the children. Very simple. Now for the for body, what are we going to do? We're going to first of all get hold of the scene component, which hopefully is a spawn point. So it might not be a spawn point if we choose to put other things underneath a track. So first of all, we've got to cast to spawn point. So I'm going to use auto here just to not repeat myself with the cast. I'll call this the spawn point child. And then I will do a cast of u spawn point of this child in particular. And it's going to complain at me because it wants me to include the uSpawn point header. So let's do that. Include spawn point.h, and now it's not complaining anymore. Fabulous. Then next up, we want to make sure that's not null. So if not null, if not spawn point child, then usually we do an early return here, but that would be the wrong thing to do when we're inside a for loop. So instead I'm going to do an early continue, which basically says go on and do the rest of the for loop. Stop processing this particular item. Okay, so we've made sure that the spawn point is indeed a spawn point. Then we can go ahead and get the child of said spawn point. So let's say that this is going to be the A actor spawned child, and it's going to be the spawn point child arrow, and then let's say get spawned actor, like so, and that should be okay. What's it saying? A actor star is what I want. So we've got to make sure that that is not null, but what we can do is if you pass null into a cast statement, it will return null, so we don't need to check just yet, because what we do need to do is make sure that this is indeed a sprung wheel. So I'm going to say sprung wheel equals cast, and then the A sprung wheel is what we're casting it to. So lots and lots of casting and double checking ourselves here, which is why we've wrapped it up into a separate function just to keep things nice and clean. So we're going to do an if not sprung wheel, and we can do the same continue statement as we did before. And then finally, when we have got definitely a sprung wheel of type A sprung wheel, we can add it into our result array. So we're going to go result array dot add, and we're going to add in our sprung wheel. Oops, like so. Whew, I think that has got us to a good point of implementing get wheels as a successful implementation. Let's go over and see whether it's actually worked. I'm going to test it rather than being shot at. I'm going to go and test it in the Spring test bed. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to remove the tank from the scene and instead make sure that the pawn that spawns is indeed a tank. So let's go to Blueprints menu, then the game mode, project settings game mode, and we'll look at the select game mode base class. Yes, select game mode, and it's going to be the battle tank game mode BP that we want. If we go ahead and hit play, now we are a battle tank. My controller's shut down, but let's see if we can apply a force now. Hurrah! I can now drive my tank. It drives very, very, very quickly because it's still applying a force even when the front or back lifts off the ground, but you can start to see just how it is working. It's also got a very high center of mass, so it's rearing up really easily, but you can see that it's definitely driving. We're definitely able to drive our tank around using our control inputs, so that is a big success. We're able to drive our tank. So that was a big one. Congratulations on getting through it. Let's just reiterate what we've learned. Hopefully now you're fairly confident with getting and iterating over child components of any uScene component. And what we've done is we have exposed add driving force. We have looked at what the requirements were for get wheels. We updated our drive track so that it applies the force to all the wheels through the add driving force. We removed the now obsolete on hit and apply sideways force that we have managed to obsolete with the way that we're now doing things. We learned how to iterate over child components. Then you went away and implemented a getter on the spawn point that allows you to get hold of the thing that was spawned from the spawn point. And then finally you implemented get wheels by iterating over those spawn points and casting them and getting their thing, the actor that they had spawned, so that then we could apply the driving force to it. So lots covered in this lecture. Pats on the back for getting it done and sticking through what is quite a long lecture. Big well done. See you in the next lecture.